What's up, guys? Welcome back to Saturday Showdown. That intro, still a banger, 2 weeks in a row. We are live from the home field studios. Caleb, Brandon, what's up, guys? Another big week in college football. Let's start off. Caleb, how you doing this week, man?
Doing pretty good. You should show. Getting through the week, getting ready for another good weekend of college football.
Brandon, what's up, man? Busy week.
It was a busy week. It's always a busy week.
Yeah, I did.
Every week's a busy week.
Guys, let's get right into it, guys. I mean, I think last week deserves our full attention right now. Some just absolutely great football from last week. Let's start off this way. I want one positive and one negative from last week from you guys. Caleb, start us off with one positive from last week.
Yeah, I think for me, the positive looking at it, you've got Florida State. It seems like they're the real deal. You know, they went and into Clemson, got the victory. You know, they could be one of the top teams going into the playoffs this year.
Great point. Really big win. Really impressed the way they fought and came out with that victory. Brandon, what is your one positive from last week?
The one positive for me is that there's how many teams in the from the Pac-12 in the top 10? What, 4, 5?
Yeah.
It's like half of the top 10.
Yeah, it's very Pac-12 heavy right now in the top 10.
How can you not be excited about that for the Pac-12?
As a conference going forward, they have a lot of optimism. There's a lot of optimism.
No,
it's unfortunate that all their teams are gone now that everybody wants to play so well. Yeah. My one positive from this week has got to be the Ohio State Buckeyes coming through. Last second touchdown, a top 10 win is going to look really good as the season goes along. I think that was the kind of win right there that will propel them further ahead and makes me a little bit more optimistic going into games against Penn State and Michigan down the line. I think Notre Dame's still a very good team. That's just how it fell that night. Now let's go back in reverse. Brandon, I want one negative from last week.
Yeah. So I hate to do this because it's the Dome in St. Louis, but God, that turf is awful.
Oh,
the turf at the Dome is bad. It needs fixed. It needs fixed soon. Like there's no like questions if it made like the talking point of the game wasn't Mizzou, it was the turf. It just left a bad little taste, I think, in a lot of people's mouth of how not so great that looked this past weekend.
Caleb, your negative from last week.
Yeah, some people may not necessarily see this as negative, but for me, I really think that Oregon-Colorado game really exposed some of the problems Colorado's having. They had all the hype going into this, season, through the first few weeks of the season, but this game really exposed all of their weak points. That offensive line is atrocious. Gave Shedeur no time at all. So I really think that really just opened up everything to, he started off hot. He's really done a lot with this program, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. I'm not one of the people that's completely off the wagon of the Colorado. I think it's still a fun experience. But I also think that some people forgot that the expectations for this team weren't to win the Pac-12. They weren't to be, them being ranked was a big achievement, based on where they started. Yeah, they've got 3 or 4 guys who are uber talented that could play anywhere, but the rest of those guys aren't, they're not everyday starters for Oregon. That's just not what they are. So I think that's a really good point. My negative of the week, this is probably nitpicking, but I think that was a tough loss for Oregon State in a really important matchup in the Pac-12. Now, on the flip side, Washington State with a massive win, but I think Oregon State A lot of people had them as their dark horse to win the Pac-12 if Washington, Oregon, USC kind of played knock around. So I think that was a tough loss for Oregon State. So I don't think overall it's a crazy negative, but I do think they took a little bit of a hit in losing that game to Washington State.
That's fair.
Anything else from last week you guys thought we should highlight a little bit before we move on?
I don't know how much you want to dig into the whole Dan Lanning is a bully deal. And that they were trying to run the score up on Colorado. Like they won, was it 42 to 6? You telling me 42 points is running up the score? When week one, you saw a team scoring 70 or 79. Or look at the who was it? Portland State scored like, what was it, 85?
Yeah, it was
the next week. Yeah, I think
Caleb,
that's kind of ridiculous.
Any thoughts on them running it up, quote unquote?
I mean, I think that's a topic that some people can go either way. I really think Dan Lanning was really just trying to get his team hyped up with the momentum that essentially the prime train had rolling into Oregon. He just really wanted to shut that down and, say, yeah, sure, they're getting all of this attention because of names and like Coach Prime, all that thing, when he just really wanted to say, hey, we're going to come out here and play football. And I think they really just wanted to say, hey, don't forget about all of us over here just because we don't have the flashiest, named head coaches or like aren't talked about in the headlines every week about something that has been said or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally with you both here. I don't believe Oregon was being a bully. They scored 7 points in the second half. They could have scored a lot more. It could have got a lot worse. Now, them going for it on 4th and 5 from their own 8 or 9 yard line, that's your defense's fault. That's your special teams' fault. That's not Oregon's fault that you couldn't stop them and get the ball in a good spot.
Right.
I think it's kind of sad that they're calling him a bully. I mean, it could have been so much worse. Oregon was so much better than Colorado was that game that it wouldn't have mattered. They could have not stopped scoring if they really wanted to. It was that much of a difference in talent from start to finish.
Yeah, there's this comment here, kind of.
Yeah,
it says Oregon's a good team.
Dylan, yeah, you're right. Colorado State did do a little bit of exposing in that night game where they kind of showed the flaws of Colorado, and I think Oregon. You just saw that they're so much better in Colorado. It didn't matter, but you're right. The defense is extremely suspect. It's going to be a really hard end of the year for Colorado going forward. Guys, let's jump ahead to something a little more fun. I want you guys to name your top 5 Heisman candidates, starting at 5 up into who you think is currently leading the Heisman race. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. 5 through 1, who is your top 5 Heisman candidates at this moment?
I think for me, number 1, and no offense to Caleb Williams, but it's got to be Michael Penix Jr.
That is offensive.
Out of Washington. I mean, the guy's thrown over 350 yards in every single game he's played. He had 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. The first couple weeks of the season. Without him in Washington is not a top 25 football team. He makes a huge difference. Not saying Caleb Williams isn't. If you took Caleb Williams away from USC, that is not the same thing. But I think my number 1 right now is Michael Penix Jr. with Caleb Williams at 2.
Okay. Who do you have at 3?
I'm gonna go away from the quarterback side of things. I think I'm gonna go with your guy from Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. You take Marvin Harrison Jr. away from Ohio State.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought he got hurt in the Notre Dame game, so I was pretty worried. Yeah. I can understand him at 3.
Mm-hmm. I still like Drake May at 4, and then I like Sam Hartman at 5.
Sam Hartman at 5. Okay. Yeah, no, he's having a really good statistical season, so I can understand that. And he's playing good football. So, Caleb, your top 5.
Yeah, I'll start from the bottom here. At number 5 for me, I've got to throw back up there Bo Nix. He came out. The Ducks are having a great season so far, and he's a veteran guy. I think somebody made the point last week. He played against Justin Herbert at Oregon when he was
what a crazy stat. What a crazy piece of information.
So he's a very experienced guy, and I think he's coming out and showing it with just these wins that Oregon have had so far. I really think the Oregon USC game is going to be a fantastic primetime game. Bo Nix versus Caleb Williams. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And then number 4, I'm going to throw. I think you can't rule out Blake Corum. I know he's maybe not having the best statistical season so far.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's still putting up numbers in every game this season. And then, like Brandon said, you got to add Marvin Harrison Jr. You take him away from Oregon State or Ohio State. I mean, that drastically changes this team, I feel like. And then kind of got to follow up Brandon here. I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr. at 2 right now.
Yeah.
Whenever they have some of these tougher matchups in the Pac-12 and say he puts up numbers like that and gets wins for these teams, then that I think it's still splitting hairs, but that's when he can jump Caleb Williams and then Caleb Williams at 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I that all is right on line with what, obviously quarterback play. It's hard not to have, it's almost hard not to have 5 Pac-12 quarterbacks in your top 5 right now. I was going through mine. I've got 4, and I was like, should I take one off just to try to be fair to somebody else? But no, these guys deserve to be there. I'm gonna go tied for 5th. I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jordan Travis tied for 5th. Bo Nix at 4, Cam Ward at 3, Michael Penix at 2, and Caleb Williams at 1. I think the way Cam Ward is not obviously as household known as Penix Jr. and Williams and some of these other guys. He's completing 75% of his passes. He's thrown for almost 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, and no interceptions yet this year. He's playing phenomenal football. I think he needs some recognition. And obviously Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams are outstanding. It's hard to be better than those 2 guys. So that's my 5. Guys, drop in. Tell us who your top 5 candidates are. Let us know who you guys think. Is there a dark horse maybe we're not thinking about? Drop in. Let us know who you think, and we'll read it on the air as we go. Let's move ahead, guys, to our college football playoffs. I want your top 4 teams, and then I want the teams on the outside looking in at 5 and 6. Dylan, Shedeur Sanders, I think he's right there at 6 or 7 for me. He definitely deserves credit. And he just happened to be on the one side. He was on the wrong side of an ass kicking last week. And I think everybody we named went on an upswing last week. So I think that's probably why he dropped out of my 5. He would have been in my 5 last week for sure. What do you guys think about Shedeur Sanders? I think he's right on the outside looking in, if anything. What do you guys think?
I mean, when you look at it statistically, the numbers are there. But I think when you're talking Heisman, you've got to really look at their meaning to the team. And, yeah, if you take Shedeur Sanders away from Colorado, they're not as good. But I don't think him being there is going to elevate him like, say, you take Caleb Williams is USC. You take him away,
right.
Like what happens?
Right.
Kind of and same thing. Michael Penix Jr., you take him away from Washington State, they probably aren't doing as well as they are. Whereas even without Shedeur Sanders or with him, I don't think Colorado's ready to get over that hump yet.
Yeah, Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with what Caleb was saying. I mean, you put Shedeur Sanders on another team, I think he succeeds no matter where he's at. I think he's that good of a player. That you put him on, you switch him and Michael Penix Jr. They're both going to continue to do the same thing for both teams. I mean, overall, it's he's there at 5 or 6. The rest of the year with their schedule is gonna be very determinant on where he finishes in the Heisman ranking. If he can come out and at least be competitive with Caleb Williams and with Michael Penix, whoever else they play for the rest of the season, then yeah, why not? You can throw him in the top 5, top 4, even.
That's another thing. It does take into consideration you got to beat somebody too. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Shedeur Sanders goes out there and throws for 5 touchdowns and 400 yards and beats USC, there's no way you can keep him out of the top 5 or top 3.
Right.
It's just hard with the team around him to make those kind of wins. And Oregon really, really gave him fits. Now that's partially the offensive line's fault. There's a lot of factors in that. He's missing his best receiver. There's a lot of factors, but he was not comfortable at all. And he still holds onto the ball too long. Unfortunately, that's just something you got to learn with age as you go along. Again, I think he's probably 6 or 7 on my list. He's right there. One big week, one upset, and you're literally right back in the top 3. That's how good of a player I think he is. It's just week by week basis. You've got to check, hey, massive win. Marvin Harrison was the best player on the field in the win against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, without him, they're probably 1-4. Arizona, they lose to Arizona State if he's not the best quarterback in football right now. Penix Jr., I mean, they haven't really played anybody tough, but you know what I mean. These guys are all really, really good. We're splitting hairs with these conversations. So thank you for your comment, though, Dylan. We're going to keep them coming, man. Let's move on. Like I said, college football playoff, our Final Four, and then our 5 and our 6, the 2 teams looking in. Brandon, give me your college football playoff Final Four as of now.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with number 4, and I think my number 4 is going to be Texas. Throw Texas in there. Texas still has a tough, conference schedule that they have to play as well. I don't think they'll lose any games, but you throw in those weaker conference matchups that they're going to have against like possibly BYU or anybody like that is going to affect where they end up. So I think they end up at 4, possibly 3. But I'm going to stick with the 4. I think only one Big Ten team gets in. I think, and it's going to be either Michigan or Ohio State. And I think my gut wants to tell me that it's going to be Ohio State this year. I think they get that win over Michigan. They go number 3, and then my dang phone is acting. Number 2, I think ends up being Florida State, and then number 1 is going to be Georgia.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Caleb, you're 4, starting with 4.
Look at this. This is a tough thing to look at here, especially some of these teams up top here. 4 for me. I think I'm going to say, as of right now, 4. I'm going to say USC. I think they have a season, they get in, maybe they get the big win over Oregon, something like that. That's a big time matchup, and they win the Pac-12. 3, I'm going to say Florida State.
Okay.
And then my 2 and 1, I'm going to say is Michigan and Georgia right now.
Okay, I think that's fair. My 4 through 1, I've got Ohio State at 4, Texas at 3, Michigan at 2, Georgia at 1. I think as of right now, I think the Big Ten has the two of the 4 best teams in football. And I think the Pac-12 has the best teams, the best assortment of teams. So I think it's really hard to keep. Again, I don't know if 2 Big Ten teams are going to get in or not. The way I'm going right now, they both get in. It's tough. This may be the last year for it. So yeah, OSU, Texas, Michigan, Georgia right now. Caleb, who is your 5th and 6th?
So for me, I think outside looking in, 5 and 6 has got to be Ohio State and Texas. there's just something about. I'm not sold on Texas yet. I know they had the big win over Alabama, but there's just something about I'm not sold on them yet. I want to see them. They have a matchup in a couple weeks coming up against Oklahoma. That's going to be a big conference matchup for them. They get a win there. If they could very easily with this conference go undefeated. I don't think that happens. I think somewhere along the lines they probably stumble, and that's why I'm just not sold on them just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Brandon, you're 5 and 6.
Yeah, so it's tough. There's so many good teams right now. I think 5 is going to be USC. I think even though that the conference overall is probably one of the best in college football, they're going to end up unfortunately picking each other apart.
Yeah.
To where it's not going to allow any team from the Pac-12 to possibly get in.
That would suck.
Which is a shame.
That would suck.
It really is a shame. But you could look at how many teams they have. 8 teams, 9 teams in the top 25. Yeah. I mean, how many you're not going to see that anywhere else any other year really. That you're going to see that many teams from one conference in the top 25. It's stacked from top to bottom. Even you got Colorado and who's not ranked anymore, but that they're still a good team.
Right.
I think number 6, Michigan ends up falling to. I don't think I picked Michigan. I picked Ohio State over Michigan. So I think Michigan, if anything, flip those. Michigan goes 5. USC goes 6.
Yeah. No. Okay. I'm with you on that. Dylan, I see your comment. We're projecting this out. We're not going based off of right now. This is a projection towards the end of the year. So I see what you're. Michigan is obviously in right now. That's not what we're saying. That's not. Yeah. This is a projection down the line for where it's going to end up. My 5 and 6. I got 5 at Florida State right now. I think they're really good. I think they've got a couple of tough games left. They might get tripped up. I got them at 5, and then I got Washington at 6. I think Washington is the best team in the Pac-12 right now. I think they're the best team. Like you said, it will suck if one of them can't get in and they all cannibalize each other, but it's very likely to happen. So I have to reflect that where I think they're going right now.
Yeah.
Any other dark horses or anything else you guys have for the playoff? Anybody you think could sneak in and steal a spot?
I think for me it's got to be Oregon. I think Oregon could be that team that goes through Washington, through USC, whoever else they need to, and find themselves in that at least 4 position, if not 5, quietly sneak their way into a playoff spot.
Caleb, anybody sneaking in for you?
Yeah, I kind of got to follow Brandon up there. Don't sleep on Oregon. They have put up a lot of points against teams that may not have been entirely, big programs. But, I mean, they're so fast. They've got so much talent on that team. And not to mention how crucial it is to have a veteran at quarterback with Bo Nix.
Right.
It seems weird to think that they might not make it. But like we've said, the Pac-12 has the chance to, self-implode on themselves by taking each other out. And, that would, like we said, that would be a shame if any of these teams maybe miss out on that because of what happens conference-wise.
Right. Yeah. And we know how ESPN favors the SEC anyway, so.
The SEC isn't even favoring themselves right now. They got to help themselves. No, I know. I totally get it. It looks like you guys are both pro bully right now in terms of Oregon. You guys really like that. Only thing that scares me is no, trust me. Look at the flag, dude. I'm worried about that every day. Great point. I just hope that maybe what?
Not even that one. I mean, do they play Penn State? Do they have to play Penn State?
Yeah, they play Penn State.
They have to play Penn State still.
I'm not sold on Drew Allar yet. I don't think beating Iowa is the same as beating Ohio State or Michigan. So just going to pump my brakes on him. I think he's a really talented kid. But let's move on to our pick'em update and our Week 5 picks, guys. pick 'em update. Let's see where you guys are at.
I had a bad 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, you've really struggled. Caleb, you are 4th at 29-11 in pick'em. I am at 8th at 20-12. And Brandon, I can't find you. 11th, 26-14 in pick'em on the ESPN website. So overall, we're still solid. We don't have anybody in the top 3. We need to beat Ted, Melana Sanders, and Rad. We got to get into the top 3, guys. We can't just give prizes to these people, guys. Let's do a little bit better this week. Let's get into the games this week, guys. Game number 1 for us, Florida versus Kentucky. Caleb, how do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, this one's a tough one. I went back and forth on, looking at this matchup. Florida has one loss early in the season to Utah. And as we can see, Utah is, they're a ranked top team right now, and they're looking pretty good. It is a home game for Kentucky, but I think maybe that win Florida had over Tennessee kind of really sparked things and kind of helped so those guys wake up a little bit. So in this one, I'm going with Florida to go into Kentucky and get the win over Big Blue Nation.
Yeah.
Brandon, Florida, Kentucky, what do we got?
Yeah, kind of going off of what Caleb just said, that win over Tennessee is going to ignite something in Florida, and you'll see Kentucky at 4-1 after this week.
All right, I got it. I'm going Florida also. I think Florida, top to bottom, just has more talent than Kentucky. Like you guys said, the win over Tennessee is a massive boost.
Yep.
I like the Kentucky program. I think they're slowly building, but I think Florida is just still more talented overall. Next game on the agenda, the 2-2 Clemson Tigers. Those 2 losses are tough losses. Go against the Syracuse Orange at 4-0. Brandon, who do you have winning this one?
This is tough.
Donovan McNabb is not the quarterback of Syracuse, so I don't know if you know that.
I know that, yeah. But what Dino Babbitt is building at Syracuse is pretty solid.
Yes, yeah.
It's a game at Syracuse in the Dome. But
pull the trigger.
But I'm gonna go Clemson.
I thought you were gonna do it.
Yeah.
Caleb, what do we got?
Yeah, you're right. Donovan McNabb isn't the quarterback, but Garrett Schrader is. I think they go in the Dome. Give me Syracuse in this one. I'm just not sold on Clemson. They've really struggled this year. I think Klubnik is, everybody was raving on him. That's why DJ left, all this. I haven't been that impressed with him this season yet. He hasn't came out and showed me he can win a big game, like Duke and Florida State. So I think Syracuse moves to 5-0 and gets the win in the Dome.
I like it. I like that. Is that an upset? Is that an upset? Because Clemson is 2-2 and 0-2 in the conference. Syracuse is 4. Is that still an upset? Okay, it still feels like an upset based off names alone.
Clemson's still favored 6.5. So
no, it is an upset. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna stick with Clemson. I gotta see some more from Syracuse before I'm all the way in. I do think they're building something.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna wait. If they can beat Clemson, I might be pushing all my chips in on Syracuse.
Well, that's gonna be my question: is if Syracuse does beat Clemson, does that put them in the top 25 at 5-0?
That would
maybe
put
25.
3 ACC teams in the top. 4 ACC teams in the top 25. That'd be interesting. I think they should, because if we're going off the AP poll right now, which I know some people don't love, but if you go off the AP right now, Syracuse is getting votes already in the AP. I do think the voters will still respect the Clemson win. Hey, Jenna, hope you're having a good night. Gary won't beat Clemson. I like that. I like that a lot. Gary, I'm with you. Clemson beats Syracuse. Good pick. Next game for the agenda is
Ooh,
Caleb, your Arkansas Razorbacks versus Texas A&M. Little caveat here: Texas A&M without their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Caleb, is this a big win for you guys?
I like the improvement I saw, even though we lost last week. This is going to be a big game for Arkansas going into the stretch. We have our road stretch that we're in the middle of. After this game, we got to go to Ole Miss, go to Alabama before coming back home. If we're going to have at least a decent season, we've got to go 2-2 in this road stretch, and I really feel like it's got to start here. Like you said, they are without Wegman, but if we remember last year, Max Johnson was the starter last year in the A&M Arkansas game. Right. So this isn't anything unfamiliar to him, but I really think this team is going to be ready for this matchup, and there is the possibility that Rocket's back this week, which could add a lot for Arkansas. So, I really think Arkansas gets it done in this game. This is always a wild game down in Jerry's world. It's just an interesting game that always has some weird thing that changes the game. Last year was that huge fumble KJ had that kind of really changed the momentum of the game, but also the season as well. So I'm going with the Razorbacks to correct the train here and get back in the winning column.
All right, I like it. Brandon, who are you taking? Yeah, I think Texas A&M losing their quarterback kind of at the start of conference play is going to be their detriment for the rest of this year. I don't quite know who they have behind their starter, but usually they're nowhere near as far along as the starter would be necessarily. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with your Razorbacks in this one. I'm gonna go Arkansas.
I don't know if we can all three pick Arkansas, but I'm gonna pick Arkansas also. I think KJ has a big game. I was hoping for our new segment you would put a KJ bet in there with for some confidence, but I'm going Arkansas also.
I would have if I saw one on the app.
No, that's fair. I didn't know if they had something for him in there. Next game is South Alabama versus James Madison. I'm picking James Madison. I think they play really good football. Haven't got to see a lot of South Alabama, so I'm going into this one a little bit blind, but I'm going to go with James Madison. Caleb, how you feeling?
Yeah, I think I'm the same. James Madison. They're a small program, but have the past couple of seasons for them has been really good. They've had good seasons. I think last year, did they move up a division last year to?
I think so.
And so I think they've just established a winning program there. So, give me the Dukes of James Madison.
Okay, Brandon, who you got?
Now, if I remember right, the University of Southern Alabama was a team that just mollywomped Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah, but Oklahoma State might not have a program next week. So, I'm just saying that it sounds like they all might quit. So it's kind of
really,
yeah. It does not sound good.
Oh,
those are just rumors, but it does not sound good.
That's crazy. Gosh, I don't know. I don't know these two teams. I want to say they were the team that beat up on Oklahoma State pretty bad.
It is. They won 33-7.
Yeah. Screw it. I'll be the oddball here. I'll go University of Southern Alabama.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, South Florida Bulls versus the Navy Midshipmen. I was impressed with South Florida, how they held up against Alabama. Obviously, that's their Super Bowl, but I'm going to pick them to win against Navy. Caleb, who are you taking?
Yeah, to your point, South Florida came out and, really took Alabama to the limit. Even though it is not as traditionally powerhouse Alabama, but for them to come do that too, still it's Alabama.
Right.
Shows a lot of fight in that team. So, give me the South Florida Bulls.
Yeah.
Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bulls. I don't know why in the world anybody would pick Navy besides maybe you're in the Navy. I don't know.
I'm not into the triple option anymore. I've given up on it.
Hey, we ran the triple option very well.
Next game is a pretty interesting game, actually. Boise State versus the Memphis Tigers. I think this could be a good one, a low-key matchup of the week. Brandon, who are you taking?
I'm gonna go Memphis in this one. They got a good shot. This is if you didn't know this, by the way, it's the first time these two teams or universities have ever played each other.
Wow.
By the way,
no, I didn't know that.
The very first time.
Caleb, who you got?
Yeah, as much as I love the Broncos of Boise State, their blue field, fantastic. I've got to go with Memphis in this one. They really came out and competed with Missouri last weekend. It is in Memphis. It is a home game for them. They're 3-1. I think we see them get the win.
I'm going to go with Boise State. I need to catch up a game on you guys, or on Caleb. So I'm going to go with Boise State. I think this is a good game either way. I think it's close, competitive game. Should be a fun one to watch, but I'm going Boise State.
Like it.
Next game on the agenda, LSU, number 13 versus number 20, Ole Miss. Man, Ole Miss. Oh, they were close, but Alabama's defense really stepped up. I'm going to go with LSU, guys.
Yeah.
Brandon, go ahead.
It's hard to. This is almost like Alabama and Ole Miss last week. It's hard to pick this one. It really is. I mean, you look at it, they're two really solid teams, two really good football programs. And I'll go Ole Miss. I think they're gonna come out. They're playing at home. They're gonna have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, playing after that Alabama game last week. I think they'll come out and they're not gonna win by a lot, but I think they'll be able to take LSU down.
All right, Caleb, who you got? Battle in the SEC.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Last week's point, like I mentioned, I'm not betting against Nick Saban, and that is why he finds a way to get this team the win at home in Tuscaloosa. But this week's matchup, LSU Ole Miss, it is a home game for Ole Miss. They had it was a really close game last week. And then just seeing what LSU's done so far, I've got to go with the Tigers in this one. In a close matchup, this game has the potential to be one of the top games of the week. With the spread being LSU only 2.5, I think we see a game that is that close. Jaden Daniels and the Tigers with Brian Kelly are going to go into Vaughn Hemingway and give Ole Miss all they want.
Yep, I think that's good. Next game on the agenda: the Troy Trojans versus Georgia State Panthers. Another game that's a little more low key. Georgia State 4-0, Troy 2-2. I'm going to take the favorite here in Georgia State because I don't know a ton, so I'm not going to try to break down something I don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
Brandon,
same. I'm going to go Georgia State. Yeah.
Caleb, Georgia State.
Yeah, same. It could be a close game though, because if you look at it, the spread is Georgia State by 1.
Oh, okay. I'm going to stick with Georgia State even with that spread. That spread is interesting, but I just don't know enough about each team individually to go out and, break it down any further. Here is my game of the week, guys.
Yeah.
Notre Dame versus Duke. Notre Dame coming off a really tough loss. Lou Holtz suffered a tough loss in that post-game interview with Ryan Day. Really took it on the chin in that one. Notre Dame stock down right now. I'm taking Duke to pull the upset.
Oh.
I very well believe Notre Dame will probably win, but I think Duke is doing all the right things, and they pulled the upset over Notre Dame this week. Brandon, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite of what you said. I'm gonna go Notre Dame. One is because I gotta get one. I gotta get a point on you as well. But I think Notre Dame's too tough. They're gonna be too much for Duke to handle when it's all said and done at the end of the day.
Caleb, what do we got?
Yeah, fantastic season so far with Duke. Love the exclamation. They come out week 1, take out Clemson. Big win for that program is being built. But for me, I think the Irish come in is just too much for Duke, even though it's a home game for them. I think you see Notre Dame come out and get the win in this one, especially after a heartbreaking loss last week to Ohio State in a game that went right down to, like you said in the beginning of the show, the final seconds. I think they come out and get the win in this one.
Okay. Last game on our slate this week, West Virginia 3-1 versus TCU, who's also 3-1. interesting game in the Big 12. I'm going to go TCU. I think they're getting back on track after week 1. I like the way they're headed. West Virginia is not a pushover by any means, but give me TCU. Caleb, who you got?
Yeah, in this game, I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs of TCU. You know, this could be a very interesting matchup. Both teams 3-1, 1-0 in the conference. It could be a big conference battle here. But I think, like you said, TCU's getting back on track, and I think they win this one.
Yep.
Brandon, what we got?
Yeah, I'm going to go TCU. I agree with basically what you guys just said, that they're moving things in the right direction after that loss to Colorado earlier in the season. And this is a good test for them, the Mountaineers coming to town. You know, 3-1, you're 3-1 for a reason.
Yeah.
But at the, like I said, at the end of the day, TCU will walk away with the win. Should walk away with the win.
All right. As you guys see, our standings over here in the graphic on the side. Caleb 34-13, leading the way. I'm at 32-15. Brandon at 31-16. We're really hoping Caleb trips up here this week. We need a big week to get back into this thing. People are saying we might have to change his picks while he's not watching to get the advantage back. But good job through 4 weeks, Caleb. Very impressive. Me and Brandon, we got some ground to make up. How you feeling? How you feeling, Caleb, about your lead?
Pretty good. You know, I was excited last week going into the what was it? The Washington State game. Undefeated so far on the day with my picks, and then they just had to go and mess it up. And then, you know, your Buckeyes had to get that last second play and beat Notre Dame and keep me from going 10-0 on the week. So,
shucks, man, you only got 8 wins last week. Darn. All right, guys, we're gonna debut our new segment. We're doing a parlay of the week for college football. We're building a 3-leg parlay. We're each making a selection in the parlay, and we're going to give it to you guys every week. Let me start off with my leg of the parlay. I'm taking Caleb Williams to throw for 4 touchdowns against Colorado. You can boost that as well with a Colorado versus USC boost, which we will show you on our bet slip. Brandon, what are you doing with your parlay?
Do you want me to pull it up?
We'll pull it up at the very end when we all say what we're doing.
Okay.
And we can explain it from there.
I think mine was Mizzou and Vanderbilt was under, what was under 54.5?
Yep.
54.5.
Okay, and that's plus 113. And then Caleb, what was your leg of the parlay?
I'm going Blake Corum, 70+ yards rushing in that game versus Nebraska.
And then Brandon, if you want to go ahead and pull that up. All right, so here's our 3-leg parlay for the week. That is your Saturday Showdown parlay of the week. Caleb Williams, 4+ passing touchdowns, boosted to plus 111. Blake Corum, 70 yards rushing, minus 215. Missouri Vanderbilt, plus 113. And then we used our profit boost for the 50%. That ends up at plus 561. So, you know, depending on how much you want to bet on that, you can get a pretty decent payout on our 3-leg parlay this week. And we will update you next week on if we hit. And then we will be back with this segment next week. We're going to give you a parlay each week until the end of the year for college football. For all you degenerates out there who already are betting on the games, you might as well jump in with us and put a little faith in us going forward.
Is that a good idea, though?
What?
Is that really a good idea?
Oh, it's a great idea. I'm super pumped about this. So, yeah, we will post this on all of our social medias. We'll get it out there. You guys got anything else before we get out of here this week?
I think it's a good idea that, as much as I hate it, I think it's a good idea that they're going to hold off any expansion on the college football playoffs until the Pac-12 stuff gets figured out.
Yes.
Other than that, that's it.
That makes a ton of sense. Caleb, you got anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, kind of following up with Brandon, I saw where Washington State and Oregon State, their hearing is set for November 14th with the Pac-12 to, I guess, essentially bring up their grievances type situation with how the conference, and the conference president essentially handled everything. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that in the next coming couple months when we get to that. But yeah, and hopefully, I know we all picked them, but I feel like this was got to be the week Arkansas gets back on track against the Aggies, and
go Hogs.
It's a tough schedule the next 4 weeks too.
Yeah. All right, guys. Do not forget Home Field Studios, 15% off your first purchase at Home Field Studio or Home Field Apparel. Sorry about that. Really, really great stuff, guys. So go give them a check out on their website. Excellent quality, really good stuff. Like, subscribe, hit us up on Twitter, Variety Sports Network. We're all over the place. We got content coming every day, guys. We are pumping it out there. Hit that subscribe button. Really help us out on YouTube. We're at 412 subscribers right now on the YouTube channel. I think I have one more coming in for us after the show, for 413 potentially. Hey, we're going to keep coming with you guys. Thank you guys for all the support, and we will see you next week. Saturday Showdown. Till next time.
Hey, this is Brandon, CEO of the Variety Sports Network. Thank you again for watching tonight's show. Best way you can support us is by hitting that subscribe button, that like button, and hitting the notifications so you don't miss out on the next show right here on the Variety Sports Network.